Hi and welcome back to our kitchen. Glad to see you here. Today I'm going to be making hamburger gravy, an old vintage recipe that were for people that didn't have any money. It was a budget-friendly comfort food that women used to feed their families on a tight budget, and it lasted a long time, as you could see. I'll take you to the stove and show you how it's done. Here I have just a little over a pound of ground chuck from the local meat market in the area, and I have to cook this up. And what I want to do when I'm cooking it is I want to keep chopping it. We want the meat in small bits. Why do we do that? Because it'll spread the recipe out for more plates when you have a bunch of hungry people. And in fact, if you get company, this is a good idea just to cut the meat up into small little pieces. Okay, it's cooking really good right now. It's putting off a little bit of grease. So I knew that the meat market we got this from had good meat, so it's not going to put off a lot of grease. Now I want to add some chopped onions, and I've got 2 little packs of gluten-free, sodium-free beef bouillon from Box. Now it comes in little packets, and each packet is a teaspoon of bouillon. You can use the cubes if you have that up in your cupboard. Try to use beef. You can use chicken if you want, whatever you have. Remember, this is a budget friendly. And the reason I have these is because of the gluten-free. Stir that in. Get the onions cooking in the grease down there. And next I'm going to add some garlic powder. I'm not going to measure today. I'm just going to add it. Because when you cook at home, you don't measure. You just get used to the proportions that you like. And
onion powder.
Oh, I say garlic?
Well, you just put both in.
Oh, I got garlic powder and onion powder. Sorry. My helper helps me out. Then I want to put a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. This is optional, but it adds to the flavor of the meat and gravy. And you can see I'm just shaking a little bit over it. Probably about a couple teaspoons worth. And also I want to add a little bit of Dijon mustard. This is my idea. This is completely optional. You don't have to do it. I just like adding the flavor. Mix that all up. We want the onions to cook a little bit. We don't want them crunchy. So I'm going to turn the stove down and let them simmer for a while. And we'll be back. Okay, I've been cooking this down. I wanted the onions to be tender. So what I did is I turned it on low, and I put a lid on it with about a tablespoon of water, and I steamed these onions until they got soft. Now, here's the next step. We have to add the flour, and the reasoning behind the whole gravy thing is there's got to be enough grease. I'm going to turn this down again. There's got to be enough grease to bind with the flour, so I've got to add more grease. Now you can add a couple tablespoons of butter, you can add olive oil, and since I have this by my stove, I'm going to add a tablespoon of bacon grease. I didn't say this was lightweight. Okay, now let me get that incorporated. Okay, that's going to be better for the gravy. You can use the same recipe for sausage gravy over your biscuits. And use breakfast sausage instead of hamburger meat. And now I have a 1/4 cup of gluten-free flour. You would do the same thing with your regular flour if you were making this non-gluten-free. And I'm going to stir that into the meat. You want it to bind with the grease. That's going to be your thickener for your gravy. I should have started off with 2 tablespoons of flour instead of a 1/4 cup, but we'll see how this goes. Cooking is experimental sometimes. So you can tell that the meat is covered with the flour. I'm going to let it bubble for a little bit. Not as much as if this was gluten flour, because you put the gluten flour in there and you don't let it cook, it's going to have a terrible taste, like a raw flour. But gluten-free flour is made out of different things like rice, potatoes, and all that, so that wouldn't be a problem. And now I have 2 cups of milk. This is actually almond milk. You can use regular milk if you don't have a dairy problem. And we'll put that in there, and we're going to sit that there, and I'm going to wait to see if we might need more milk after this comes to a boil. So I'm going to turn the oven up, the stove, up to a medium high, and I'm going to bring it to a boil. And once it starts bubbling, that's when it starts thickening. And it looks like it may need more milk, but we'll see when it starts coming to a boil, because it may get real thick. And I'll be back. Okay, I've got it boiling, bubbling I should say. You don't want to crank the stove up or you're going to burn everything. So I've got it down to my electric stove number 5, which is medium. And it is very thick, but that's good. But I still want to add a little bit of milk. Now, while I was gone, I remembered that I forgot to add salt and pepper to it. And I always hold off on the salt because products may have salt in them, like your Worcestershire sauce and your bullion. So what I'm going to do is stir this around. It looks like I could even add more to stretch the recipe. This is how women used to do it. They'd have some friends of their kids come over, and so they would either add more milk or even water to this recipe to make it go longer to feed all those hungry mouths. Oh, that looks really good. I tasted it. I put a load of pepper because that's what we like. And I also added about half a teaspoon of salt. And since I add milk, that's going to change the seasoning flavor. So now I want to take a taste of it. It's really good. Okay, I'm going to take this back to the counter and show you how I plate it up. Okay, here's my gluten-free toast. Small, because that's all you ever get. And I'm going to add the gravy to it. This looks so lovely. And it's actually very cheap. If you want to do mashed potatoes, you can get a box of instant mashed potatoes at your grocery store. They'll probably only cost you $2. And you get a lot of portions out of it. Now I'm going to put this on the plate, and I'm going to add some more pepper, because that's what we like. And some green beans. Ouch. It's hot. Okay, and I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, I'm going to taste these for you. I need a knife and a serrated a serrated knife and a fork to cut the gluten-free toast. Let me make sure it's not going to burn my mouth off. Now that's a blast to the past. Comfort food to the max. And then I have my green beans over here. Nobody's looking. Yeah. 1 pound of ground beef, a quarter cup of flour, some little additives here and there, and you have yourself a meal for probably 4 people. And like I say, you could use mashed potatoes too. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. The trends for 2022 are going toward vintage recipes that are comfort food. So I may be putting some more of these in here. And I hope you are kind to your neighbors and your small business owners. And I hope to see you back. Please subscribe. Bye.